Okay, good evening, everyone. We are here for the Board of Trustees meeting in a virtual meeting, video conferencing for St. Louis Community College, March 23rd, 2020 at 5 p.m. Jessica, can you do roll call vote, please?
Just possible Jessica is on mute.
All right, here we are. Kevin M. Martin.
Here.
Pam Ross.
Here.
Libby Fitzgerald. Rodney G. Doris Graham.
Here.
Craig Larson.
Here.
Ann Marshall.
Here.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. Going on to the next agenda item is agenda item of public comments, and there was no comments submitted, and it was posted on the homepage as well as on the trustee notice for them to submit public comments via email, and no comments were submitted. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Any abstentions? Seeing none, agenda is approved as presented. Moving on to item number 3, which is approval of board policies. Everyone should have the policies in front of them or have them near. I can screen share them if you want me to, if that would make it easier. I can certainly go back and forth and screen share. So all these policies, we took all the revisions that, hey, Rod.
Hey there.
Hi, Rod.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
We're just getting to policy A. So all the feedback that was presented was incorporated where it was actual feedback. Some was opinions that was not necessarily incorporated per se. And we know this is a work in progress. So if there's things that don't pan out or aren't what we intended, we can always go back and revise policies later on because sometimes you write something and it doesn't actually work the way you thought it was. So just so we know that since we did such a massive revision, some of these may change or evolve before the 3-year period as we come up on issues for that. But all the feedback was incorporated where appropriate throughout.
So Kevin, what you're saying is the board policies are a living document. We can change them as time goes on. We should review them regularly, but there's nothing to keep us from saying, boy, that's not working the way we thought. Bring it up for discussion, maybe have a lodging of a revision and then a month later vote on it.
Absolutely. Especially because we did such a massive revision. Generally that wouldn't be the case, but since we revised all of the policies, there's going to be some of that that just don't work out in the way they need to work out.
Okay. So do you need a motion to approve board policy?
We need to go through each of these individually. I just wanted to see if there's any other question about like the format or the process of how we went about this and incorporating all the feedback from folks.
Okay.
Seeing none, recommendation approval of revised board policy A.
So moved.
Been moved by Larson, second by G. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Ayes have it. Moving on to item 4, recommended approval of revised board procedures, AP procedures for board procedures. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved by Graham,
Second.
second by G. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Moving on to item number 5, recommended approval of board policy B. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved by Ross, second by Marshall. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 6, approval of revised board policy C.
So
Is there a
moved.
motion? Then moved by G,
Second.
second by Ross. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Moving on to item number 7, recommendation approval of revised board policy section D.
So moved.
Been moved by Graham,
Second.
Second.
second by Marshall. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Moving on to item number 8, recommended approval of revised board policy E. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
G, second by Ross. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Moving on to item number 9, recommended approval of board revisor board policy F.
So moved.
Been moved by Graham,
Second.
second by Ross. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions?
Aye.
Yes, yeas have it. Number 10, recommended approval of revised board policy section G.
So
Their
moved.
motion. So been moved by G,
Second.
second by Ross. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Item number 11, recommended approval of revised board policy H. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Graham, second by Larson. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Yeas have it. Kate, can we go to 13 first? Is that okay or no?
You want to just modify the agenda?
Yes.
Just want to move, I would just make a quick motion to modify the agenda.
Can we move to item 13 before item 12? We switch the order. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Been moved by
Second.
Marshall, second by Graham. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, moving on to, I just think it's important we do this one next. Moving on to recommendation of a resolution, and I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution just so it's on the record. The Board of Trustees of St. Louis Community College, the board desires to demonstrate commitment and accountability to the general public by competent, conscientious, and effective decision-making. Whereas the current state of the world, nation, region, and state and region are in a pandemic state of emergency, the board must be proactive in supporting the chancellor and the college leadership team. During the time of uncertainty, board policies, procedures, and other measures may need be amended or enhanced to provide more safeguards and maintain college activities as appropriate. Now, therefore, be it and hereby resolved by the board. Section 1, the board authorizes and grants the chancellor to place into immediate effect temporary lawful policies, procedures, and other measures which in his judgment are necessary or appropriate to meet the COVID-19 public health emergency, including but not limited to safeguards persons and property and maintain college activities as appropriate. Section 2, temporary lawful policies and procedures or other measures adopted by the chancellor under his authorization should be effective notwithstanding any contrary provisions and shall remain ineffective until such time identified by the chancellor or the board of trustees, or until such time as the board of trustees withdraws the authority granted in this resolution or otherwise directed. Section 3, the chancellor shall keep the board of trustees advised as to policies, procedures, and other measures adopted under this resolution. Section 4, all resolutions or parts therefore inconsistent herewithin are hereby repelled to the extent only of such inconsistencies with respect to this resolution. This resolution should be effective immediately upon its approval and adoption. Whew. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved by Larson, second by Graham. Discussion.
Just to clarify, that was Rodney.
Oh, sorry, Rodney and then Graham. Thank you. So this is essentially giving the chancellor authorization to amend our sick leave and other policies that are needed to address the ever-changing COVID-19 as we can't meet regularly. And honestly, we need to give the chancellor the autonomy to do its best to keep the college moving in the right direction while keeping people safeguarded as well as the college safeguarded.
Dr. Martin, would you do a roll call vote on that just so that it's clear what the vote was?
Yes, we've not voted yet.
Okay.
I just have a question. Will you and Pam be part of those conversations at all? It'll just be all Dr. Pittman?
Dr. Pittman's having the power from us, and then he'll keep us updated. The entire board will be updated on any policies or measures or procedures that need to be enacted.
Right.
As it could be fluid, as we know it changes by the minute. We don't know what's happening or what's not happening.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We do roll call.
He asked for a roll
Okay.
call vote.
Roll call vote, Jessica. Then.
Rodney G,
Yes.
Doris Graham,
Yes.
Libby Fitzgerald, did she join us by phone? No?
Can you hear me? I'm just auditory.
Oh, yeah, okay, can't vote,
I'm sorry,
okay.
Libby can't, Libby
Yes.
actually can't vote because she's not on video. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Libby.
Thanks.
Okay, no problem. I'm just listening.
Craig Larson,
Yes.
Ann Marshall,
Yes.
Pam Ross,
Yes.
Kevin and Martin.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. I just think it's important we do that. Now we're going to be going to a COVID update. We do have several things. I do ask that we hold questions until the presenter is done presenting. So we are having Dr. Pittman, and then we're going to go to academic affairs, then student affairs, then HR, then IT, then finance, payroll, and facilities, then marketing and communications, and then incident command team. So we're going to go in that order. So after each person, you can ask questions, but just let's try and get to that person and then ask any questions. Dr. Pittman, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Dr. Barton. I'd like to begin by commending all of the leadership team members and other staff that have worked so hard the last several days, literally 24/7 coverage, doing what we can to keep up with everything. I'd also like to commend Trustee Martin and thank all of the trustees for their support as we go through this time. As Dr. Barton said, things are just evolving so quickly. We're trying to present you with information. I try to keep you all updated as quickly as I can, including information that's coming out of the Federal Reserve Bank and how this is rapidly impacting our economy, will rapidly increase a very large unemployment rate in the St. Louis region, probably over the next few weeks. As Dr. Martin mentioned, we have several reports. We're trying to keep them to 3 minutes apiece, but if you would like more information at the end of each presentation, please feel free to ask for more information. We'll start out with Dr. Andrew Langer for Academic Affairs, and then I believe you have the agenda in front of you, and I've just asked that each presenter keep moving forward. Andrew.
Thank you, Dr. Pittman. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So update on academic affairs. We have extended spring break for students through this week. The scheduled spring break was to end at the end of last week. So students have an extended break. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, now we can see you too.
Okay. Faculty are back this week, transitioning their courses, their face-to-face courses into online courses. We've paused the hands-on lab and studio engagements in courses for a few weeks to assess how we can meet these outcomes. We're going to engage faculty in either an option to move some of these engagements online, need to, in some courses, extend the semester, depending on when it is safe to send students back on campus. We're asking faculty to review the course skill outcomes in the course profiles against what has already been covered in the labs and studios to see what things are necessary to accomplish in the rest of the term. So those conversations are going on. In fact, to facilitate those conversations, each subject has a course shell in Blackboard, so the faculty in those subjects can share materials and have discussions about how to meet those student outcomes. This week, the online education department is providing synchronous and asynchronous training for faculty in delivering material online and using the technologies. And those opportunities will continue past this week, but there's numerous opportunities this week and lots of material out there. This material has been shared, these links have been shared in multiple communications throughout last week and this weekend. Library services are being provided online moving forward until it's safe for folks to be back on campus, including chat with a librarian. So students need to get information from a library faculty member will be able to do that at a distance to aid their research papers. Academic support will also be delivered online through Collaborate. There will be synchronous opportunities for one-on-one and group tutoring in writing, math, and some other subject areas. We have over 700 laptop computers that we're working to be able to check out to students who don't have computer resources at home. IT and the library staff are working with formatting those computers so that they can be distributed very soon. Special messaging has been provided to our partner superintendents about our dual credit and dual enrollment students. These students will be able to, like our native students, engage in their courses online and meet those outcomes. And lastly, the CDLC up at Florissant Valley will remain closed for the time being until it's safe for those workers and kids to get back together. That concludes the remarks that I've prepared, unless there are questions.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate making sure we're getting laptops out to our students who need access for that, and definitely the K-12 partners, because I was going to ask what is our plan for that piece, because I'm sure their schedule's kind of thrown off. Has there been any conversation around grades at all of concern? I know people are having this conversation around how do you hold kids to this or students to the same standards of grades? Like, could students be penalized if they weren't planning on having online classes? What does that look like? What are the conversations around that? Or is it up to individual professors?
There are conversations going on about that, and it's not just within St. Louis Community College. The state, the MCCA CAO group had 2 calls last week, including one on Thursday morning. There's discussion and I'd say study going on about a pass-fail grade option in some circumstances. If some courses need to move past the end of the term, there may be some circumstances where we may have an expanded use of incomplete grades. But that, I'd say that's still a bit nebulous at this point, Trustee Martin. There was a message provided by one of the colleges that other colleges are beginning to send out to their faculty that essentially communicated students cannot be harmed by the circumstance. And what it communicated out to faculty, if there's a technological challenge, the student's grade really should be no less than what it was at the midterm. And so the CAOs are discussing that, trying to do the best not to harm our students by this pandemic.
Thank you.
I've got a question. What about the students that might not have an internet service? What kind of plan are we going to have for those students? And also, I think we really need to talk about the stress that our students are going to have as far as, you know, the fact that a lot of these folks are working and might not, you know, nobody's working right now. And I think we really need to be very compassionate, you know, both to faculty and our students during this really trying time. So as far as the students, and I guess my question is really about internet, but what's the status with providing internets? I mean, I don't even know how to do what's that thought?
So let me say 2 things there. And Dr. Davis may mention some things in her remarks about, you know, counseling services. I think everybody is trying to communicate an extra dose of compassion with the circumstances going on. I think that's, you know, echoed in our city and in our state. So I think that's a pretty common message here, to try to be compassionate. And one of the pieces of that is many of our internet service providers in the area are providing free internet access for folks working in education and for those students.
That's
so we've compiled a list of those resources, and we're providing it out to faculty and students so that they can connect up with those internet service providers to get that free access.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Andrew, something else came to mind as we started talking. Is there a way for us to look at policies? Because there could be some students who just, at this point in time, their parents have lost their jobs, they've lost their jobs, are not in a state to finish the degree, where we can look at revising policy for this one circumstance to allow students to mark incomplete and come back to finish it at a later time without an additional cost to them, just paying this one time. I don't know if that's in policies or conversations or what, but I just think it's important that we're thinking about those students who've literally their whole life has been wiped away financially in the sweep of a week.
Well said, Trustee Martin. We have thought about this some. We don't need to adjust policy to affect change with respect to incompletes. If we give a student an incomplete, they have a year to finish that course off, no extra cost or anything like that. And we also are working on, Dr. Davis may mention this too, we're working on a way for a student to withdraw so that it's coded so that they can come back and take this course again at no charge. The concept is a WC grade or a WC registration code. So it would be coded that those students, no harm done, they can withdraw and they can come back and take that same course in the future at no charge.
Great, thank you so much. Other questions for Andrew about academic affairs? Thank you so much, Andrew. Next up will be Dr. Davis.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Hey, Dr. Davis.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to frame my comments around three areas. Kind of what we're doing right now immediately to get students up and running, what we're looking at for the summer, and then beyond summer into fall and beyond. So as Dr. Langer mentioned, students are on spring break right now. So this is an opportunity for us to work with our staff to get everybody up and running and working remotely. And we've been doing that for the past week and into this week. Academic advising services will be conducted remotely, counseling services, and you mentioned counseling, and of course we understand that our students, we're all under so much stress. So we want to make sure that counseling services are up and running and we can work with students remotely that way. Our access office and disability services, to the extent that we can, be able to provide those services remotely as well, working with faculty and connecting the faculty with the students. So all of the student support services that we can, we are moving remotely. We will have some limited hours where we will have the office open for staff to come in and do some work, but for the most part, 94% of the staff will really be working remotely and serving students that way. We are working on communication right now that's going to go out, hopefully sometime today, and Kedra may talk a little bit more about that, but later on today or tomorrow, kind of outlining all these things for students, what our plan is. Dr. Langer also mentioned that WC grade. That's something we started talking about a couple of weeks ago. Let me back up. It's not a grade, it's a withdrawal code. And so it would just give those students the opportunity to, if, like you say, if they just, I didn't sign up for this, I can't go online, this is just not how I feel like I can learn. I just want to pause, and we want to be able to give them that opportunity, no harm, and they can take it at a future term. We're thinking about putting some parameters around that. So we're looking at an academic year. We don't want it to stretch out beyond that. So if we say, let's pause, you can take it within the next academic year, so 2021, at no cost to you. As far as then moving on beyond what we're doing right now into summer, our summer and fall registration actually began today at 8 a.m. So we had priority registration going, and I'm happy to report that students are indeed registering. So that's a really good sign that they're not just thinking about what's happening now, but they are planning for their future. So priority registration are for those students who have 50 credit hours or more. So that's a really, really great sign. We've had 326 CRNs that have students registered for it for summer, and 270 CRNs for the fall. So that's a great opportunity. This is the first day of registration, and so I'm excited to see what's going to happen as we move forward with more registration. We did postpone our commencement ceremony. I'm sure the chancellor probably already told you all that. We're thinking of different ways that we can celebrate with students, because we don't know how long this is going to go, but we certainly don't want to miss an opportunity to celebrate with them. And so we're looking at some options as to how we will do that, what that will look like. We're certainly not the only institution dealing with this. All the other colleges are dealing with this as well. So, but we all, as a leadership team, we all agree that it's important that we need to celebrate with students. So for summer and fall, we're looking at what we're going to do there. And then longer term, it's a matter of tracking those students that we lost this term, because we know that there's going to be some that just simply they can't, maybe they didn't even withdraw. They just simply stopped coming. So we want to be able to put some tracking mechanisms in place for those stop outs that we see that are enrolled now and maybe don't come back for the summer and fall. So we want to be able to track those students. Hopefully they'll engage with us and withdraw, and we'll have a way to track them. But we want to be able to keep up with those students. And then of course, anticipating that if we have a lower employment rate, people are losing their jobs, we want to be able to plan for those students coming back on campus and hopefully, getting a certificate or a degree with us as well. So we're also thinking about long-term what it's going to look like on campus over the next few semesters.
Dr. Davis, thank you. I do have a question. Is there any way we can track for students who've stopped attending class, let's say in the middle of April, who've been participating, whether it's virtual or not, that we're reaching out to those students to find out and not just giving them Fs, and we're figuring out if they need to do a WC or whatever code that might be? Because again, there are some people where this really changed their life very, 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 very quickly. And that it's just not on the top of their mind. I don't want to penalize them. So if there's a way we could reach out to those who just stop participating completely in the middle of April to figure out what's going on, whether it's withdrawing them or whatever the case may be, just so we're not penalizing students.
I can think some more about how we can do that, but I know we do midterm grades, but faculty are not required to report midterm grades, and midterm grades were due right before spring break. So that could be one way of tracking to see if they had a midterm grade, but they didn't finish. We could follow up with those students, but unfortunately, because we don't do attendance every day, there's no way to see if they were here in April, for example, and not back, or here in March and not back in April. But I'm certainly open to working with Dr. Langer and our data folks to see what kinds of mechanisms we have in place that could track students so we're not losing them.
Thank you. Yeah. And then is there a way, are we looking at a longer term? Honestly, I don't know how summer classes are going to be able to even be ready to be back on campuses yet, to moving to offering just online classes and then potentially opening building classes, because there are some professors or students that's just not the right fit for them online. So I don't want folks to think that we're going to be offering it and then come June or May, they decide to drop it drastically. I know that's longer down the line, but where are we at?
Right, and as you mentioned it's evolving every day, and so we don't know. We think we may be back in May, but we may not be back till June or July or August. And so, what does that mean for our summer term? Does that mean that summer is going to be entirely online? All these things are sort of to be determined at this point. But yeah, I understand. As soon as we possibly can, I'm sure we're going to want to have some ground classes for students.
Other questions for Dr. Davis?
I just have a comment. I think this is an opportunity really for the faculty, and I'm sure they're all doing this, to think through how do they teach in a more online hybrid fashion, no matter what their course is. Somebody gave an example earlier of, the kind of hands-on lessons that don't really lend themselves, but we may need to think how to expand opportunities, which could be useful into the future, but certainly maybe the only way we can offer things this summer.
Definitely.
I have a question to Dr. Davis.
Dr.
Yes,
Graham?
ma'am.
Yes, it's kind of going back to what you said earlier about students. They'll have a way of withdrawing from a class if they see, because of circumstances, that they won't be able to finish. And I'm just thinking that there's some students, who are working and now they have no jobs, and they were taking classes, and that's an obstacle for them. They have to withdraw. What if they forget to go through the process of withdrawing from the classes correctly, and then things get better and they go back and they want to get in? I want something in place so they won't be penalized because they forgot to go through the process of withdrawing by a certain date or whatever.
Right, and so that's what I was talking about earlier, where we are going to put some system in place where at the end of the semester, so if they don't withdraw but they would say all Fs, that would be a red flag to say this person they just stopped coming. If they're in 4 classes and they have 4 Fs, that would be one way for us to track to see if that was indeed the case. But certainly if they come forward, so if we don't catch them that way, if they come forward to say, because we do have appeals processes in place for special circumstances. So if they would come forward to say, well, I stopped coming and here is why, we would absolutely take that into consideration when reviewing that student situation.
Okay.
And not to, again, sorry to go back to this point, but not to put more things on faculty, but if there's a way, even at the end of April, they could report any student who's not participated at all in the online classes, that advisors and counselors are reaching out to those folks to see what is going on, whether we can offer supports, mental health supports, advising supports, whatever the case may be. But if we could for somehow have something at the end of April where faculty are reporting to student services, these are the students who have not done one activity since spring break. And I think that goes to Dr. Graham's point, because I'd rather be proactive and have to go back to figuring out more paperwork and filing special circumstance. We have staff on hand. I would prefer that we're reaching out to them.
Yeah, that we're being more proactive. I completely understand. And I will work with academic affairs, and we will make sure that there's something in place where we can get that report from faculty and have advisors follow up with those students.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Dr. Davis? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Appreciate. And I know these are trying times, and your people are leaned on more than others sometimes in mental health crises. So we appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Phillips. Don't say you're at the office. You're muted, Robin.
Yes, I am. So the update I want to give today is on open enrollment. I've had a number of people call about that. We are in the process of working towards getting that started. Open enrollment begins March 30th through April 8th. What is different this year is that we started working on moving our open enrollment to an online platform. And so we're going to kind of test this and roll this out at the same time. We also have a backup plan should something not work, but we feel pretty confident that it will. We have some, instead of course, face-to-face benefit meetings, we're going to put those meetings online. We're going to send a voiceover PowerPoint presentation through Safe Colleges, as well as send the PowerPoint presentation out to all staff. So that will begin on Monday. That communication will start going out this week as soon as we finalize some pieces from the broker. We have some retirees, COBRA participants, and HEC members that are not able to go online. And so we are mailing packets out to them. That's what we're sort of here doing this week. So we'll be getting those packets out to them this week. So each HR member is equipped to work from home. They will all be assigned a particular campus, but employees can get in contact with anyone they feel. We did some training last week, so they should be equipped to answer any questions that employees may have. So we'll be monitoring. We're doing a passive enrollment, and so individuals who don't need to make any changes won't need to go online and make any changes. If they do, they would have to go online. And then, of course, as you know, IRS regulations requires that if you want to continue your FSA, that you have to re-enroll in that on an annual basis. And so that would be one thing people would need to do. So we'll be monitoring that. We have a way to check to see who has completed their enrollment through the online portal. And so we'll be following up with employees and just equipped to handle any questions they may have as needed.
Got it. Thank you, Robin. I know sometimes people lean on HR for figuring out who's essential and not. And I believe, just for clarity for all the trustees to know, the leadership team has worked through identifying who's essential employees, and that list is ever evolving as we figure out how to move online, and payroll still needs to be processed, and all of those things still fall under that essential guidelines piece. So the leadership team is deciding who's essential and communicating that out to supervisors.
Yes, that has already been communicated out. Those individuals have been notified, the key personnel, which are primarily those that will be working on site or authorized to come on site. And so we've identified that. We're working with Hart Nelson and submitted a list to him. So he has a full list of those individuals.
Got it. Because the college is open. We're just open in a different manner.
Thank you for saying that. We are absolutely open for business and doing what we can to be least disruptive to students. So we're working towards that.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Phillips? Seeing none, thank you so much, and welcome to not even 6 months into the job and getting another lovely thing to deal with that none of us.
That's okay. It's okay. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Hackey.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. First, thank you to Muha for setting up this technology and making this conference possible. Great job, Muha. IT started working right away a couple weeks ago, identifying laptops and building those laptops for home use, essentially equipping our workforce and students to participate remotely. We identified 244 immediately available laptops. Those were imaged, and 155 of those have been assigned out already, primarily to faculty and staff, as the past 2 weeks have been spring break. We did order another 180 laptops just to be sure. There was about a 10-day lead time, which looked pretty good. So we put in an order for those same models we will be using next year anyway, next fiscal year. We're working with academic affairs, student assistants, programming coordinators, and the libraries on how to assign laptops to students so that our most needy students get laptops. And there are 740 student laptops available in the district, and those are being imaged as well for the students. 150 of those are available right now, and we plan to start distributing those again to the most needy students in probably a drive-up fashion. We're also working on using the mobile enrollment van. You might remember that trailer that Enrollment has. We're looking at a way to use that and maybe travel around to different parts of town to make those easily available to students in the next week or two. We did create a student virtual private network. This is a secure and compliant way for those student laptops to get into the college. And we want to keep the students secure when they're using these laptops. We're working with all of our software vendors to make sure our licenses terms allow the licenses to be used from home. Some have restrictions on that, and some are easing those restrictions. And when we get those vendors to approve of that, we can make that software available to the students remotely. We had, just as a point of reference, we had just over 400 users on remote systems today. So that was a good sign that our workforce has moved into the work from home environment. We're looking to improve our remote troubleshooting capabilities. We have some procedures in place right now so that our technicians from their homes can work on computers at our staff's homes when they have a problem. They can remote into them and help diagnose the problem. Our telephone system, we have switched people to soft phones. So the laptops that faculty and staff have will have a soft phone on them. That will allow the 4-digit dialing within the college, as well as receiving calls, just as if you were at your office. And that works pretty good. There are some limitations on that in our phone system, and we're working through those. Lastly, when we updated our Microsoft licenses at the end of March, or excuse me, in the beginning of March, we got Skype for everybody. So all faculty and staff now have Skype capabilities. And each of those Skype sessions can have up to 250 participants. Now we are working closely with online so that the message goes clearly out to faculty and students. We do want them to use the Collaborate product. And so we're gonna not confuse the situation with Skype and then roll that out in a very well communicated way so that people know which technology to use, because they can get overwhelmed with too many technologies. And that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Hackey, how do you know who's the most neediest, who gets laptops first? How are we deciding that order? Is it just first come, first get? And then if we need to order more, we'll order more.
We're working with the student assistance program coordinators. They have a good handle on some of this. The faculty as well are reporting in students in needy situations. They're going to be the folks on the ground that are going to be able to identify those students as well. 740 sounds like a lot. We don't know what the uptake's going to be. But we'll get all those out there if that's what they need. And these are loans. All of these are loans. Nobody's giving away laptops. We are working on a tracking system too to get them all back eventually.
Sounds good. Are they signing any waiver that they do need to return it? And if not?
There is a sign up form, yes.
Okay.
And we're working with the libraries. Libraries have checked out laptops for a number of years already and has a really good return rate on those. So we're going to work with that same system that the libraries use.
Other questions from the trustees? Mr. G?
Yeah, I was wondering if we could correlate the students who have the need with those who get bus passes from the college. So,
work on that.
yeah, I think there may be a correlation there for those students.
Good idea.
I don't have a question, but I really appreciate all the proactive steps you guys have taken. Thanks.
I don't have a question either, but I really like the idea of the van driving, delivering the laptops to the students. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll get permission from maybe grocery stores, closed schools, libraries and such to get permission to park in their lot.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Just a thought, if possible, if Charter could have a representative or a form out there, because they are giving it to college students as well, it'd be nice if it would be a one-stop shop where they could get the internet and the laptop all in the same place if possible. If they can't have a representative there, at least the paperwork to give the students who need that.
Will do.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Hackey? Seeing none, thank you, Keith. Keep up the IT protection work as well, because we never know what's going to be next in the phishing world. Finance, payroll, and facilities. Mr. Zink.
Hi, thank you. Is my video on?
It was, and then they turned you off. Now you're back.
There we go.
There's a man that can break a camera.
Absolutely. I got a face made for radio and newspaper. Thank you, Dr. Larson. Thank you. Good to be with you. Just an update on, let's start with finance. Many of our employees in student accounts, accounts payable, purchasing, the bursar, and accounting are all able to work from home. Our IT folks have had to help considerably with that effort. And most importantly, probably to all of our employees, our payroll continues to run. In fact, this is a payroll week for our biweekly folks. We will be able to continue paying our employees throughout this sort of unusual time. And so we've made provisions with those employees. They may at some point need to report into the office, but for the most part, we've issued laptops and they'll be able to do that remotely. We hope that provides a little bit of, press for the employees, at least on the payroll standpoint. Otherwise, from a finance standpoint, we can do pretty much most of what we do through the working from home. And we continue to do that. We may have some employees that will have to work in the office at the McKelvey building at Corporate College from time to time. We've established hours and certain days of the week for them to do that, and we'll continue to adjust as necessary. I had a very encouraging phone call the other day from Mr. Tom Lally, who's the Senior VP for Commercial Banking at UMB. They're where we do all of our treasury banking and investment services. He and their president both spoke with me. They've committed to helping with anything we need. So that was all very encouraging. I appreciated the reach out from them, and I'm in close contact with the two of them as well. Related to our investments and the changes that the Fed changes to the interest rate and how that impacts the college, you'll recall, as we've often discussed, the amount of investments that we have in fixed portfolios. We're very limited by the state treasurer guidelines as to how we can invest. So all of that is good. Even though the market has taken a downturn, it doesn't affect those securities, which do until maturity in any case. So that is good. Of course, anything we're purchasing will be at a lesser rate. We will have some negative impact to our revenue from the interest changes, as over the last year when the interest did go up, we saw quite an increase to our Our investments for the non-certificated entire employees retirement plan, we also feel we should stay the course there. That policy is designed to withstand and meet market downturns. It certainly has done so. The most important thing about that plan that you know, we and you, the board, are responsible for, is a defined benefit plan. So the market downturn, it will have no impact on the benefits our participants receive. It may have some impact, of course, because of the market downturn on our financial statements. We'll just deal with that as it comes. And of course, I think everybody would be most understanding of a very unusual period. From a standpoint of facilities, we continue to have a very limited staff on the campuses to support the employees who are working there. We don't have very many employees working on the campuses, but we are still providing a custodial team to take care of those areas that are being worked in. We'll continue to clean the campuses being in the spaces being used, and we're disinfecting all the common areas, of course, and paying special attention to commonly touched areas such as, you know, door handles, restrooms, you know, handrails and that sort of thing. We also continue to monitor all of the announcements from health officials. And necessary if there's additional measures to take. We do have a few construction projects that are ongoing and some that were due to start soon. All of those projects are on hold. We had limited amount of work on our campuses today, mostly with contractors picking up you know, tools and things. Each of our projects that is either ongoing or about to start are in a safe status so that they can be paused without any kind of safety issues. We've checked with the contractors related to that, and we think we're good to just hold those. You know, construction is one of the exceptions that was given in the stay-at-home order, both in the county and the city. However, we spoke with several of our contractors. They believed they would have a lot of difficulties with delivery of materials and with subcontractors, and some of them had just decided to keep their employees at home. So we felt the most prudent thing to do was to agree to just put those projects on hold for the time being. If this is as extended as some of us think it might be, we'll certainly reevaluate at a later date. Lastly, from a standpoint of budget, we are still monitoring the state budget. The House of Representatives met last week. They did not pass the fiscal 21 budget. They had hoped to before they went on spring break this week. Both the Senate and the House are on break this week, and they are due to return on March 30th. I'll just note that state and government operations are another exception to the less than 10 people rule. So they should be able to figure out a way to meet and hopefully pass the budget. Some good news there is the House up to this point have continued to be in favor of an additional $5 million for the community colleges. So that would result in some additional dollars for our college, certainly, perhaps not as much as some of the others based upon the allocation formula to which we've agreed. Another important thing about the state budget, of course, is that we don't know what all of the other polls on the state resources will be following this as we continue to work through this COVID-19 situation. We also don't know how it's going to affect state revenues. They've already made and I think agreed in principle to extending the tax due deadline. So that certainly is a lot of state revenues into the coffers. So it may result in some changes to our forecasted fiscal 21 state revenues somewhere down the line. And of course, there may be adjustments made to the higher ed budget. We'll continue to monitor that and keep you aware of what we know about that. One additional item of concern from a state budget standpoint, the MOExcel's dollars, which we had received in this current fiscal year 2020, are due. They have to be spent by June 15th and requested from the state. So we are working with the Department of Higher Education. They put out a request to all of these schools who receive these dollars. We received just short of $2 million to be able to figure out how we handle either extending the spend out period or however they are going to handle the MOG sales dollars. So we're still working with the state on that front. That's what I have in my notes to present. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate, again, reiterating that we're going to still be able to pay our employees for the time being as it looks forward. And I assume that includes our hourly folks as well. So thank you for that. I know certainly we can do our part, as I said in my letter, to make some certainty. Financial certainty is something that helps people at least get through some of this stuff. So other questions for Mr. Zink? Thank you, and we'll see how it evolves as we get to the budget in June. Thank you, Paul. Next up, I believe I closed that screen, is Kedra with Marketing Communications. Kedra.
Hello, everyone. I'll keep my remarks brief. Just want to let everyone know that pretty much since the first week of March, pretty much being March 4th, we've been communicating with faculty, staff, and students about our position on COVID-19 and what we're doing to keep everyone safe while we work to service our students. We've sent several emails from first telling people how to prevent getting sick and how to social distance themselves, to the communication that we sent out last week from Dr. Pittman, advising everyone of some decisions that have been made involving commencement and working remotely. Right now, we are working on very important messaging to students, even though we've communicated on social. If you check the STLCC platform, social media platforms today, we have communicated to students that their spring break was extended, but the most important thing is to probably let them know what services will be available to them as we work through this. And simultaneously, we are retooling our COVID-19 coronavirus page so things are easier to view and to find. We are also building a student resource page. We are also building a student FAQ for questions they may have, and again, preparing the messaging for them so that they understand what services are available to them. We usually SWOT at the end of each day to determine, what we've done for the day and what we need to look forward to for the next week. So I really need to applaud my colleagues and Dr. Pittman for just holding us up and working with us, and everyone being so professional and helping us get the word out and to get things to our students in a clear and concise manner. On an enrollment front, I'll be meeting with Dr. Davis tomorrow to look at our messaging for summer enrollment. I was happy to hear that we had a good number of students register today, but we're going to go through all of our marketing schedule to begin, our all district marketing schedule to begin next week, just to make sure that we are keeping keeping everything in the right tone that we're delivering, and making sure that students are aware of what they need to do while we are moving everything online. So those are my remarks. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Any questions for Kedra? Thank you so much, Kedra. Appreciate. Moving on to Hart Nelson, the Incident Command
Thanks, Kedra.
Chair.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And trustees, just very briefly, the incident response team and basically what a difference a week makes. So what we were stood up to do is to track and ensure that if there were any potential, presumptive, or confirmed cases of COVID-19 on campus, that we would respond appropriately, basically notifying public health authorities and making sure to the extent we could that we limited exposure. So that's ensuring that we get cleanup of the spaces and then basically notification of other employees, students, or vendors that may be affected. As Paul mentioned earlier, the biggest problem, which is having a lot of folks on campus and in our buildings, has already been resolved over the course of a few days. And so we now have far fewer folks on campus where we have to be concerned about. Just so that the board is aware, we have about 17 people, though, late last week that we have been tracking. I want to be extremely clear that these are not people that we believe have COVID-19 or anything like that. It's just people who were symptomatic with flu-like symptoms or who had traveled to foreign destinations and were under self-isolation as recommended by the CDC. So just because with our team stood up, what our practice has been for risk mitigation is ensuring that we're in contact with those individuals, we're tracking those cases as they report back to us that they've recovered, that they no longer have symptoms, or that they've passed through the 14-day period of isolation. Then we basically just are noting that, and the risk obviously has lessened at that point. So key takeaway again, what our group is there to do is to basically make sure that we're tracking any incidents on campus of folks who have those flu-like symptoms, making sure we're getting them to out of campus, back home where they need to be for isolation, and to medical if they need to, and referring them to medical facilities if that's what's needed, and then following up with them as appropriate. Happy to
Do we have a
answer.
reporting form for folks to be able to report if they feel like they've been in contact or with something, so we can track to see when the last time on campus they were? Or
Yep, exactly. So Mr. Chairman, what we're doing is we have two methods. We have a email box, and we're asking supervisors to do this because if someone is ill, we don't want them to have to basically doing this reporting, but it's through an email box. And also the IT call center, since they are still operating, has been gracious enough to also basically provide that method. So they're able to get basic information in, basically what happened with the individual, their contact information. The incident response team will then follow up with that individual and basically track them over a period of time. So that's kind of how it is there's two different ways of doing it, either via phone call, the call center, or via an email box.
got it. And IT help desk is working so we don't know how much longer they're working ahead.
That's correct.
Got it. Any other questions for Mr. Nelson?
Awfully glad to have you in that role. You have a
My
little
wife
military background, but you're organized. Thanks.
And my wife working for Department of Public Health. I think, I'm not sure if that's what got me volunteered, but whoever did, thanks.
So you wouldn't suggest if I was in Mexico last week that I should come on campus this week?
2 weeks. You're banned for 2 weeks.
I'll try my hardest with that. So thank you, Mr. Nelson, so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing that, we are going to motion to.
We lost our chair.
We lost Kevin.
Where did you go? Kevin?
They didn't like that I said I was going to, that I went to Mexico, I guess, so they took me off.
What?
Can you see me?
No.
I cannot see you.
No.
We're still a quorum. We can make a motion. Are we moving into a closed session?
Yeah, so we
or
need a
not?
motion to adjourn, and then we're going to go into executive session. So the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Doesn't like, now I see everyone. Okay, so we need a motion to adjourn, and then we are going to adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
First is it move to, thank you.
Second.
Second, all in favor to adjourn our general meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now is our motion to go into executive session for 610.0211 legal and 610.0219 work in prep of negotiations.
So moved.
Been moved by G.
Second.
Second by Marshall. We're going to do a roll call vote. Then we're going to exit this Zoom conference and join the executive session Zoom conference. Roll call vote, Jessica, please.
Annie Marshall,
Yes.
Craig Larson,
Yes.
Doris
Yes.
Graham,
Yes.
Rodney G,
Yes.
Pam Ross,
Pam's on mute.
No.
Yeah.
Pam Ross,
Yes.
Kevin and Martin.
Yes, I think I voted for Craig. Craig, can you say yes just to make sure that?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you all. We're going to exit out this and you're going to go to the executive session link.
How do you do that?
It's in your email. It's the other link she sent.
It's on my cell.
See ya.
Yep. It's on your cell phone in your email.